Will you dare to love? Millennials and Gen Z, I want you to order my new book, Millennial and Gen Z Guide to Marriage, Love in the Age of Lies, Deception, and Mistrust by Natural Ferreira, because this is our time. Available today on Amazon, iTunes, and Audible. So, I wanted to talk to you guys about MSNBC. I haven't let it go. I'm still mad. MSNBC. I'm mad that MSNBC got rid of Mehdi Hasan. I literally used to just watch MSNBC for only a few people. It would usually be, and some of y'all don't hate me now, it would usually be in this order. It would be like Morning Joe tied with Joy Reid. Goes back and forth sometimes. Sometimes I lean towards Joy Reid because she just is very frank speaking, and she's got that sort of like fast New York sort of, she just like runs along with this fast New York rhetoric, and she gets this stuff really fast, but she also does it with a level of empathy, and she's funny, you know, and she's real. So, and I've got a long history with her. Joy Reid has been a staple in my household for a long time. Morning Joe, even though Joe Scarborough had his questionable stuff back when he was a senator, and even though the scandal between Mika and Joe was big news back in the day, and some people, they don't like them because they think that they're sort of performative, how do you want to say, performative devil's advocate, like they try to like play both sides of the card, Democrat, conservative. I think, you know, Joe Scarborough, he used to be a big conservative, and he's pretty much just sort of like backed away from the Republican Party. Mika's been a long time Democrat. I love that. I love seeing their interactions together. It honestly reminds me a little bit of me and my husband, because it's not that my husband is super conservative, but looking at Mika and Joe, they've got this dynamic that it's just, I don't know, they're like two sides of a coin. And it flows very well between them. You know, they're sort of different, even just with their differences of approaches. It works really well together. The banter, right? The banter is what it's about. And, you know, I like the panels. The you know, like Family Guy said, the multiple screen with one guy louder than all the other guys. But, you know, also Morning Joe just kind of delivers the news in a very straightforward but entertaining and digestible way, right? Behind that was Mehdi Hasan. So I guess Mehdi Hasan was second, because Morning Joe and Joy Reid would kind of come scored up together. And then after Mehdi would be Simone. After that would probably be Ali Vishy. I think that's how you say his name. Lawrence O'Donnell. I do like Rachel Maddow, but I'm not as much as a fangirl as a lot of people are. And Stephanie Rule is cool. And I really like the lady who just had a baby. What's her name? Nicole Wallace. I do really like Nicole. Nicole Wallace probably goes up to number 4 or something. I don't know. Something like that. But Mehdi Hasan was one of my favorites because it's always refreshing to see a brown face. Okay? It's just like, I don't mean to sound biased, but like I just said in the segment previous talking about Halle Bailey, it's nice to sometimes see a face like yours, because nobody's going to advocate for you like somebody from that group will. You know, it's basic psychology. It comes back to like our limbic system and our reptilian brain, right? And I feel truly that last interview that Mehdi Hasan had with that Israeli secretary, the guy, Mark Revel, something like that. What's his name? What is his name? Let's figure it out. I think it was Mark, Mark. What's your name, Mark? Mark something. Mark Regev. Rashida Tlaib, she also got some flack in Congress for speaking up for the Palestinians, who the thousands, like 30,000 or something innocent Palestinians who have died in this business over in Israel. And of course, like everybody else, I do feel the need to caveat and say Israel should be able to defend itself. Obviously, of course. But 2,000 people, innocent people killed on Israel's side, paired up to like 30,000 people on Palestine's side, it stinks. It stinks to high heaven, and people know that it does. You know, this NATO resolution that the U.S. was absolutely quiet, you know, like a church mouse in, it's reprehensible. It's reprehensible, and people should be ashamed of themselves, you know. And it's biblical. It's quite literally biblical. If you look in the Bible, you know, this is that type of stuff where, of course, you know, there are figures like Netanyahu in the Bible who think that they are so justified in what they're doing. You look at what happened in Moscow, this attack from ISIS-K or whatever. I'm pretty sure they feel very, very justified in what they're doing, passionate, okay? But sometimes you gotta step back and you gotta actually let the Creator speak, because sometimes, I mean, violence is just not the way. It's not the way. And I understand that that could sound naive to some, because the war in Israel, the wars in Israel and Ukraine, and all the other wars happening all over, you know, especially the ones in Africa that many people don't talk about. And I'll talk about that in a different segment because it's very complex. But, you know, even those understated places like Omar Sy, you know, the French actor said, you know, he said something, he made a statement and people got all on him about it. But he said something to the effect of, people always talk about the Afghan-Iraq war, but what about the African kids that lose their lives every day in war? And maybe people just look at that as gangs. Maybe people just look at that as uprisings or effects of colonization, you know, or, you know, bad deed doers, whatever it is. But it's true, you know, there are these little mini wars happening every day in places where people don't get nearly as much coverage. Even in the U.S., 38, like 40% or something of the missing people in the U.S. are black. Black people make up 13% of the population, but like almost half of the missing people in the U.S. are black. To me, that pretty much sounds like war. It's biblical. It's biblical. And so you got to ask yourself, what is the right thing to do? What's the right thing to do? So I think that Mehdi Hasan was really, really, I think it was hitting him. You know, it's like, I don't even want to like get emotional, but the biggest thing I could compare it to, just looking at the way he was talking with the guy in the video and seeing his reactions and looking in his eyes, I got the same feeling of when I saw George Floyd's death under the knee of that cop. And it's an image that really is just burned in my head, you know. And sometimes I will go and I'll look up Derek Chauvin or whatever the guy's name was who unalived George Floyd. And that picture comes up, which that's a whole other thing. I wish that there was more censorship to the internet, you know. Sometimes Google says it's going to blur images. Other times it doesn't. So it's like, dude, I would rather you blur dead bodies than like somebody's boobies or whatever. Like, blur the stuff that's going to traumatize people. But every time I see that image, it really traumatizes me. And it hits me in a place where maybe someone who's Asian, and maybe they do, but maybe someone who's Asian or Latino or white or Latin American or I don't know, Middle Eastern, maybe they don't see it that same way. Maybe it just doesn't hit them like that. But to see him, you know, blue, lifeless, with some knee on his neck because of cigarettes, to me, it's like looking at an uncle. It's like looking at a brother. It's like looking at a cousin. And the fact that those coverages of the news are on TV every single day, it's repeated trauma, like looking at a brother or a cousin or a son or your neighbor or somebody you went to school with every single day. Every single day. So imagine how the Palestinians feel. I get it. I understand. Imagine how the Israelis feel as well. But it's not a competition. It's not a competition. But you have to acknowledge that this war on Netanyahu's part and his government, his administration's part, has not been well done. It has not been well done. You know, nobody's been captured from Hamas, but thousands of innocent civilians have lost their lives. And Mehdi Hasan, he touched on that, and it was too much for the media machine. It was too much for MSNBC, and it's absolutely atrocious. I absolutely find that behavior reprehensible. I love MSNBC a lot, I do, but some stuff, you know, honestly, if I'm being quite honest, I feel like some far-right players, from Donald Trump's people, maybe even to Netanyahu's people, got in MSNBC's ear. Because sometimes, you guys know how those cars for auto school have two wheels in it, you know, and sometimes the instructor can jerk that thing back if the student is going too fast or too far or something like that. Imagine that going back and forth, and this car just like, you know, scurrying in the road. I feel like that's kind of what MSNBC's coverage has been since around a little bit before the time that they fired Mehdi Hasan. And I think it truly has to do with the fact that I feel like some people are really kind of, the coverage that they're doing is wonderful. They're doing what a lot of news stations are not doing, which is speaking truth to power. They're saying Donald Trump is terrible. They're saying the war in Israel is being fought very badly on the part of Netanyahu. They're saying that Putin is a tyrant. But if you look at their comment sections, if you look at the people going after MSNBC, it's like they're terrible. So they're doing all this good stuff. They're speaking truth to power of Donald Trump, of Putin, of Netanyahu and his bad strategy. But they're going to fire Mehdi Hasan, you know? And I was already pissed off that CNN fired Don Lemon. I stopped watching CNN because of that, and they will not get my eyeballs back until they get a face that looks like me back in there to replace him or bring him back. And that still might not really make it right. MSNBC, I don't know. I don't know what it is. I haven't really been able to 100% let go. I did unsubscribe from their YouTube channel. I still watch their YouTube videos, but I unsubscribed as, I guess, my little show of my stance. But yeah, it was hurtful. So listen to what some people said on Reddit. What this person said really struck me. They said, "Thank you for sharing this." They shared an article basically chronicling how Mehdi left and he started his own, channel. They said, "Thank you for sharing this. I hadn't seen it. I'm still so angry at MSNBC for this, and I'm glad he set out on his own rather than remaining there after being unceremoniously demoted and treated like crap. And I generally find CNN more disappointing than MSNBC, but good for them for getting him on air." Somebody else said, "MSNBC messed up by letting him go. I'm happy to see he's still active and looking forward to hearing him again." Someone said, "Go, Mehdi. I'm thrilled for him and look forward to his new ventures." You know, you can just see through these comments, like me, how much raw support there is for him. And it's not, I hope I described that well. I feel like maybe I didn't express the fact that it's not just because he's brown and I'm brown that I support him. It's because he's a freaking amazing journalist, you know. Did you guys see that interview between him and Vivek Ramaswamy? You know, like, watch my video coverage on that. That right there exemplifies what a talented voice that they let go. You know, it's so stupid to me. And it's going to come back to bite them in the butt. And Don Lemon is going to come back. Not Don Lemon himself, but that Don Lemon situation is going to come back to bite CNN in the butt. History doesn't forget this stuff. Yeah. So listen to this. Let's read about this, because I really feel like this Mark Regev guy was a Judas kind of just planted in there. You know, he was a plant. And Vivek Ramaswamy was a plant for Don Lemon as well. So listen to this. Pay attention to what MSNBC and CNN do not say. How dare MSNBC remove Mehdi's show because he protested the genocide in Gaza? How dare MSNBC fire Mehdi because of what Mark Regev, the Israeli advisor, commanded what Mehdi could and could not say on live TV? And commanded is what he did, right? He really did say that, you know, like, someone said right below this comment, excellent point about Mark Regev literally saying, you can't say that, Mehdi. The control that this guy tried to enact on Mehdi Hasan, the control that Netanyahu tries to enact over the Palestinians, over even the Israelis, that right there to me is white supremacy, but just with a Jewish face. It's ghastly. It's reprehensible. And the UN was right to protest against this. Something has to be done. So the poster on here goes on to say, Mark Regev is no diplomat. There is no diplomacy for genocide. People wake up. MSNBC and CNN gaslight the American people that Trump is a threat to democracy. Our entire government is a threat to democracy. I don't really agree with all that. Hold on. Okay, let's finish with reading what the guy says, or the person says, and then I'll decompact or decompress all this stuff. The American class works for the government. The government does not work for us. The media divides us. As long as we fight over woke issues, the government wins. Corporate America and the industrial war complex will continue to steal from all of us. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Death equals profits. Netanyahu and Biden must be charged for war crimes. Now that the golden handcuffs are off, I hope Mehdi stops defending Joe Biden and holds him accountable for the American people and to citizens of the world. Good luck to Mehdi Hasan. I don't agree at all with the stuff about Joe Biden. I don't agree at all with the stuff that this person said about the government. I think that the government absolutely can work for the American people, but the American people have to demand that the government work for them. I mean, this is a democracy. This is not a monarchy. This is not a system where a king tells us what to do and we just go do it. It's a democracy that you have to continue to workshop. You can't just put your hands up and throw in the towel every time something doesn't go just your way. And you also have to realize that you're taking the legacy of people who have created this democracy we've lived in since 1776. You know, and the first settlements in America were when? 1650? So not only are we juggling the stuff that we're dealing with, we're also kind of trying to put the puzzle pieces in of what they left before. Joe Biden, on top of that, Joe Biden has done so much for the U.S. He's brought more jobs. He's actually called out racism and sexism and homophobia. He's trying to get production back to the people who have been working the labor jobs that this person is talking about. But Joe Biden did not create the unrest between the Palestinians and the Israelis. This man is only, what, like 80 years old? He ain't been on this planet this long. It's been between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Okay, maybe on paper, this just started about 60, 70 years ago, but that unrest, that rivalry has been there a long time. Joe Biden can only do so much, especially when Congress is completely dysfunctional because of the Republicans. To me, this is just a person caught in between maybe his MAGA family members, and so he's sort of ended up on playing devil's advocate of kind of agreeing with MAGA sometimes and going more towards what they call a quote-unquote moderate. I can tell this is probably not a person of color because of the way they use the word woke in quotations. I wish people would stop appropriating that word from black culture. I mean, woke was the term used to say stay alive, don't get yourself hung. So I wish people would stop just blanketing that. But the sentiment that he said about MSNBC firing Mehdi and that being a bad move, and Regev being the catalyst that broke all of this forward, that I completely agree with. Everything else, I would just say, guy, no president is perfect. Just maybe back up off Joe Biden a little bit. And, you could also just take a chill pill. Tell me what you guys think about this Mehdi Hasan issue.